transition process in case some of you haven't transitioned yet. So, and then we will also look at the different ways to recertify your credentials once you have obtained the certification, and we will leave the end to any questions you might have. I'm just trying to make myself familiar with how it all works, so just bear with me one moment. Okay. So the improvements to the NAATI testing project really only started back in 2011. The reason why NAATI decided to introduce a new testing system was mainly because the old accreditation system they actually turned 40 years old last year. Was never really reviewed, and except for the revalidation system that was introduced in 2007. During this time, NAATI received a lot of feedbacks from stakeholders. Some of them were saying that the quality and consistency, there were some quality and consistency issues between accredited practitioners. Others were saying that the accreditation system did not meet the needs of the Australian community, and others were saying that the accreditation system was not designed with continuous improvement in mind. What we're really trying to achieve with the certification system is to create a single universal system for interpreters and translators here in Australia. We want to bring all the practitioners together and create consistency across the industry by setting clear standards. With the accreditation system, this was not possible because with the introduction of the revalidation, this actually created two groups of practitioners within the same accreditation. We also, with the certification system, we also want to make sure that we want to make use of better technology, make it easy for us, but also for interpreters and translators to do their job. We also want to improve the validity and the reliability of assessments of the actual test. We want to make sure that the tests are run are consistent across Australia, and we want to establish more transparent and reliable criteria for awarding certifications. This is the new certification system. I'm not sure if many of you have already seen this. So as you can see, at the bottom we have recognized practicing translators and recognized practicing interpreters. These are the equivalent to the old accreditation system to the recognized interpreters and translators. We move up to the certified provisional interpreter. This is the equivalent to the paraprofessional interpreter in the old accreditation system, and as you can see, there is no equivalent for the paraprofessional translator. During the reviewing process, NAATI, when NAATI started designing the new certification system, it undertook a comprehensive survey process involving practitioners and consumers and also policy owners to identify the relevant knowledge, skills, and attributes for the respective certification types. And it became apparent that paraprofessional translator will not represent the competencies associated with what was demanded by clients and translating services. So that's why there is no equivalent in the new certification system. When looking at the screen again, we move up to the certified translator and certified interpreter. These are the equivalent to the professional translator and the professional interpreter. And if you look at the interpreter side, we're also going to introduce certified specialist interpreter in health and legal sector. This will be available, we're hoping in the new year, beginning of the new year, end of this year, but nothing has been confirmed yet. And we're also going to have the new certification system also has the certified advanced translator and certified conference interpreter. So in what way is the certification system different from the accreditation system? We have already mentioned how the different credentials, but one of the biggest changes that we're introducing with the certification system, it's the prerequisite requirements. In the past, with the accreditation system, you were able to just sit a test without providing any particular training, form of training, proof of training in interpreting or translating. With the certification system, if you want to sit a test, you need to have translating and interpreting training. It could be the NAATI endorsed course. So if you look at our website, we have in there a list of all different NAATI endorsed courses. At the end of this course, then you just come to NAATI and sit the test, or it could be a non-NAATI endorsed course or different NAATI training modules, including the RMIT and TAFE South Australia training modules. You also need to provide English proof of English proficiency. For example, an example is like the Cambridge Advanced or TEFL or IELTS. You will also you will also need to provide ethical and intercultural competency. So you would need to sit the NAATI ethical competency test or the NAATI intercultural competency test. The actual certification tests are also different. With the translator test, you will be asked to translate personal documents, non-specialized text, and you will also be asked to review a document that has been translated but contains errors, and you will be asked to identify those errors. With regards to the interpreter test format, this is probably the biggest change, and you will it will involve role players. So you will be in a room with two role players. So you will be with an English speaker role player and Lot role player, and you will be asked to interpret what each individual are saying. You will also have face-to-face and telephone interpreting, sight translation, simultaneous interpreting, and monologue interpreting. Obviously, this varies depending on the level you are applying for. As part of the certification system, we also ask that each certification is each credential is recertified every 3 years, and it includes work, practice, and professional development. With regards to the recertification requirements, as I mentioned, this is every 3 years. It's mandatory. If you don't recertify, you will lose the credential. And as I said, it's got two different criteria: work practice criteria and professional development criteria. For the work practice criteria, translator will need to provide proof of having translated an average of 10,000 words per year. So that means approximately 30,000 words over 3 years. But if you're unable to meet, that doesn't mean you have to have translated 30,000 words each year. You might have translated 20,000 in 1 year and 40 in the following years, and so on. And the same for interpreters. You are asked to provide proof of an average of 40 assignments or 40 hours per year for a total of 120 assignments over the 3 years. Again, as I mentioned, for the translators, doesn't mean that you have to have done 40 assignments each year. You might do 20 1 year and 60 the following, and so on. As long as you complete 120 assignments over 3 years, that's all that matters. And if you're unable to meet the requirements, we always recommend practitioners to contact the recertification team and provide reasons why you weren't able to meet the criteria, and then we will work with you to recertify your credentials. With regards to the professional development criteria, you will need to complete 120 points over the 3 years, which is an average of 40 professional development points each year per year. And it's divided into 3 categories: skills development, industry-specific participation, and maintenance of language. We have I'm just going to open this document that's available on our website, and it explains exactly the different it's the recertification catalog, and it explains the different activities that you can look at, and the points that you can get for the different activities. For example, for the category 1, skills development and knowledge, you can see here the description. So these are the different options, the minimum requirements: over 20 hours, 1 day, 2 to 4 hours, and the point values that you get, the amount of points you get for each of the different category. For example, if you look at 1.9, current paid membership of a translating or interpreting professional association or a representative body like OSIT, ASLIA, and so on, they will give you a maximum of 10 points per recertification application. Or even like 1.10, membership renewal process with professional association and representative body, again 10 points per year, and so on. The next category, it's the industry engagement. Again, here you have a minimum of 30 points for this category. For example, if you have presented a paper, 2.3, category 2.3, if you presented a paper at a translating or interpreting or any other related discipline conference for a minimum of 20 minutes, you get 20 points. If you have shared item 2.8, if you shared practical experience through mentoring new practitioner or supervising work experience students for a minimum of 6 hours, you get 20 points. So there are different options, different opportunities are there. And as you can see, under each category, if we always invite practitioner to nominate additional relevant PD activities, which may not be listed in this section. So we're open and we welcome new suggestions. As I said, just get in touch with the recertification team and it will be able to assist you. I won't be going through the entire document, but I recommend you have a look at our website and if you have any questions, feel free to get in touch with our office. Getting back to our presentation, not sure how many of you have already transitioned to the new certification system. So far, NAATI has received more than 4,000 requests to transition, and we have processed almost all of them. So it's still an ongoing process. We're still working on processing transition, and we probably think we will be continuing transitioning practitioners most likely until the end of the year. I just want to make clear to everybody this is optional. It's not mandatory, and it's open to all current practitioners with a valid and unexpired credential. I don't know if many of you knows this already, but at the moment we are waiving the transition fees until June 2018, and after that will be a charge of $121. The requirement in order to transition would be required to provide different documents, and that depends on the type of accreditation you have and the information that NAATI already has on its database. In order to transition to the certification system, you need to complete the NAATI transition form. This is available on our website. I'm just going to open it here now and we just quickly go through it. So the first section of the transition to certification, it's you enter your personal details. We just want to make sure that we have all the latest contact details for all the practitioner transitioning. And then underneath you have NAATI credentials. So this is where you enter the details of your credentials. So if you hold more than one credential and you want to transition them all, then you just click on the box next to it and just select yes. If you only want to transition one or two credentials because you might don't use the other ones, you just select no and provide the details in the following page. If your credentials have an expiry date, so if you are required to revalidate your credentials every 3 years, then you select yes. If you currently don't revalidate your credential, you select no. If you're validating some of them and not others, just select the second option. If you're currently not revalidating your credential, if your credential don't have an expiry date, we ask that you provide proof of work done in the past 3 years, and that can be a reference letter from your current employer or service provider. It could also be a proof of income from an accountant or just a completed work practice record. If you're unable to provide any of these, we recommend you provide a brief statement in this section here as to why you are unable to do so. We will then review your application and take it from there. If we need further information, we will be in touch with you. If you, as I mentioned before, question 1, do you wish to transition all of your current credentials? If your answer is no, in this section here on page 2, you enter the details of the credentials you want to transition. So just click on the box, select your credential and the language in just type the language in the next box. Next section, it's for professional interpreters only. If you are a professional interpreter and wish to transition to the new certification system, you will need to provide proof of evidence of work experience, education, or training in chuchotage. If you don't have experience in chuchotage, just leave that blank, and when we process your application, NAATI will invite you to attend chuchotage workshop. It's a one-day workshop. It's usually run on a Saturday. There is no additional cost to this to attend this workshop. You do get professional development points by attending the workshop, and there is no test to be done at the end of the workshop or anything like that. But you will receive a certificate stating that you have attended this chuchotage session. Once your application to transition has been processed, assessed, and it's completed, you will receive a new ID card. If you are an interpreter, and if you are a translator, you will receive a translator stamp for each of the languages you are practicing. You will also receive a certificate. This will be emailed to you, and it will also be available on your My NAATI portal if you register. The next one, the next question is related to the online directory. I don't know if many of you had the opportunity to look at our website, but it's we provide an online directory for certified interpreters and translators. These, if you transition, this will be available for free. If you wish to have your details available on our website, just click yes. If you don't want that, just select no. And all you have to do after that is just date and sign the form and email it to the transition team. So the email address is just listed here. Attached to the transition form, you also need to attach it to the email together with the transition form. You need to include a passport size photo, and as I said, just email it everything. If you're unable to email the documents, feel free to post them or bring them to your nearest NAATI office. So there are some additional requirements. If you don't have an expiry date, if your credential doesn't have an expiry date, you need to provide, as I mentioned before, evidence of work practice for each credential that you have. And professional interpreters, as I mentioned before, will need to attach proof of evidence of work experience, education, or training in chuchotage. But if you're unable to do so, just let us know, and we will look into your application. As I mentioned, if you decide to transition, you will receive on top of your ID card for interpreters and stamp if you're a translator and certificate. You will also receive a new NAATI practitioner number. You will have access to an e-logbook to record your work practice and professional development activities. And if you wish to be listed on the online directory, you will be able to do that at no extra cost. We always get these questions: why should I transition? NAATI, as I mentioned before, we are trying to create a single universal system in Australia, a system that is consistent across all practitioners, and it's recognized. It's better recognized as a profession. We have in this document that I'm about to open, you will also see other benefits that there are out there by transitioning to the certification system. As a practitioner, you will have better work opportunities and potential for higher remuneration linked to the certification. For the industry, you will be able to assist. You will have opportunities for ongoing improvement through formal training and professional development, but it will also assist the industry by providing a greater recognition for as a profession. Consumers, they will also gain greater confidence in the quality, credibility, and of practitioners out there. And but it will also make it easier for NAATI to manage poor or unprofessional practice. This document is also available on our website. Feel free to have a look when you have a moment, and if you have any questions, just give us a call. If you decide not to transition, that's absolutely fine. It's entirely up to you. As I said before, it's not mandatory. It's optional. It's up to the individual to transition or not. NAATI will not alter the current conditions of the accreditation. If your accreditation doesn't have an expiry date, it will continue to remain valid. If your accreditation does have an expiry date, then it will simply expire, but because revalidation will not be accessible after 2017. But also just bear in mind that the online directory, as I mentioned before, will only display certified practitioners. NAATI will no longer issue ID cards, stamp, or certificates for accredited practitioners, and we initially decided not to provide an online verification system for accreditation, but this is actually has just been put up on our website last week. So clients can verify your credential as an accredited interpreter or translator. I'm going to open a document that it's no longer available. So I will send this across to Polaron for distribution. But NAATI cannot advise on what various departments or agency will do or accept going forwards. These are policy decisions to be taken by the respective government departments and not by NAATI. So as long as those departments are happy to accept accredited practitioners, there is nothing more to it. The Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade indicated not long ago that they will gradually move to using certified interpreters only. If you mainly work with private clients, this is obviously up to your clients to decide if they wish to use certified interpreter or if they wish to use accredited interpreters or translators. If you have already, we get this question asked a lot. If I already transition and I decide to cancel my application, can I do that? So if you have already transitioned and your application is not being processed and you change your mind, yes, you can email the transition team and ask them to ignore your application. But we recommend that it's not really. Why would you bother canceling your application? You've already gone through the process of of gathering the information, completing the application form, you might as well proceed with the application, stay with the certification system for the 3 years, and then if you decide to drop off, feel free to do so. If your accreditation doesn't have an expiry date, it will continue to remain valid even if you decide to drop off from the certification system. So I'm just gonna open now just gonna leave some time now for questions, and just gonna have a look and see if there is anything there. If you have any questions, just feel free to ask. I'm just going through the list of questions. There's a few of them in there. Okay, I just picked up one. I have an urgent question, please, for the end. You announced last year that you will build an online training module, which is not a tertiary education, but will suffice as prerequisites. When will it be ready? I cannot find it anywhere online. The NAATI training modules will be available toward the end of June. There's been a change to that. Initially, it was supposed to be covering 4 different areas: interpreting, translating, ethical competencies, and intercultural competency. This has not been changed, and it will only cover intercultural competencies and ethical competencies. So if you decide to do, if you're unable, if you can't do the NAATI endorsed course, your next best option is to do the RMIT or TAFE South Australia online courses. These have not been released yet, but they're currently taking expression of interest. I believe they will be available toward the end of June. If you decide to opt for this option, you can sit the certified provisional interpreter test with NAATI, and you can sit the certified translator test. But you will also, prior to sitting these 2 tests, you will be asked to sit the NAATI intercultural competency test and the NAATI ethical competency test. If you pass these 2, then you can see the actual translator and interpreting test. Just gonna keep scrolling down and see if there are any other questions. Next one, as an only accreditation body, NAATI should register professional development providers and provide a portal for them online. This is not available as yet. We do put on our website any professional development activity that are available throughout the month or week. So we always recommend to keep an eye on our website, and then if you have if you're in doubt, always give us a call. But it's a good suggestion. It's something that I can always bring forward to the head office. So it's been returned. Okay, there is here another question. It's not related, but I'm just going to answer it. Hi, I'm a NAATI Accredited Translator with no expiry date. I applied and paid for a translator stamp in October 2007, but I never received it. Just contact the national office and let them know, and they will look into it for you. A lot of questions, and just bear with me. I'm just going to through them. Some of them are just give or take the same questions. For how much longer can translator continue using the old stamp? You can continue. Okay, so for how much longer can translators continue using the old stamp? As long as your accreditation, your credential doesn't have an expiry date, you can continue using the old stamp. That's not a problem. Individual PD recording. I'm not sure what that is. Okay, next one. I have already transitioned into the system, so now I am a provisional certified interpreter. How am I going to upgrade to be a certified interpreter? Will sitting a NAATI exam and passing is enough, or will there be additional training required before upgrading? So if you if you want to move from certified provisional interpreter to a certified interpreter, you need to have a minimum of 3 years experience as certified provisional interpreter before you can actually apply to sit the test. You are not required to do any additional training, just provide the relevant proof of the last 3 years worked as an interpreter. The next one is which languages will be tested this year? We are currently working on the first set of tests. We're going to be starting most likely in mid-year with the Mandarin, Spanish, and Cantonese languages. We're yet to confirm after that what we're going to be test. The first test will be for certified provisional interpreters. So next one is I'm fluent in Spanish and English. Where do I start? What is my first step? Okay, so it's a very broad question. First of all, you need to specify if you want to become an interpreter or a translator, if you have any experience in the industry, and if you are English native speaker or not. I recommend you just contact the any of the NAATI office, and we will be able to assist you with any queries you might have. Next questions. Just wanted to confirm that Auslan interpreters are not required to provide evidence of training work experience in Shushudas. Yes, that's correct. You're not required to provide evidence. for your transition application. Next question. So, to sum up, we can sit for the translator test if we pass the ethical and intercultural test, but after June, we will we'll have to do the online training modules, right? No, that's not correct. So, you have to do the online training modules with RMIT or with TAFE South Australia. Once you complete these modules, once you complete this course with them, then you can sit the test, the intercultural and competency test with the NAATI, and after that you can sit for the translator test. Next question. Do I have to fulfill all requirements if I want to sit for Hindi interpreter tests? Yes, you have to, unless you're already an interpreter and you're already working, you already are certified or accredited interpreter. Otherwise, yes, you have to fulfill all the prerequisites in order to sit the test. Next question. Do I have to go and sit for TEFL? Okay, so if you are not English native speaker and you have not completed any tertiary education or high school in English, then yes, you have to go and sit the TEFL or Cambridge Advanced or IELTS to provide English proof of English proficiency. I completed the Advanced Diploma of Interpreting and Translated RMIT in 2010. Do I need to do an ethical test if I wish to sit a provisional interpreter test with NAATI? So you have completed the Advanced Diploma in 2010. So this would expire, the validity of the diploma would have expired after 3 years. So you would need to you're required to do more training, and yes, you would need to sit the ethical test and the intercultural test with NAATI. Next question. Are there any countries who declare that they officially recognize NAATI Certified Translator Interpreters? At this stage, no. We need to make sure that the certification system is robust enough before we take it outside Australia, and that's what we're trying to achieve with the certification system: create consistency and across the industry, and of course a robust system. Next question. When revalidation was introduced 10 years ago, the same arguments of quality, etc., were used, yet a new system is being introduced. Does that mean the revalidation system did not achieve the promised quality improvement? It did and it didn't, because when the revalidation was introduced in 2007, all the existing practitioners were given the option to opt in or not. Some practitioners did, some didn't. So that's why there is an inconsistency there. All new practitioners were asked after 2007 were asked to revalidate, but it was mandatory for them. But those prior to 2007 were not. With the certification, once you transition or you sit the test, you are required to transition. You are required to recertify every 3 years. Next question. I was accredited in the 1990s. I don't think there was an expiry date. So if you received your accreditation in 1990, for example, and did not opt in to revalidate your credentials, then you don't have an expiry date. With regards to what the agencies will do going forward, that's up to them. We believe that in the next 3 years, most of them will give priority to individuals with certification to those with accreditation. This is something that you may want to discuss directly with your agency and see what they say. What are the tests that allow us to transition from certified professional to certified interpreter? So you are required if you are moving from certified provisional in a specific language to a certified interpreter in the same language, you will be asked to see the certified interpreter test. This involves two face-to-face dialogue interpreting. There'll also be a telephone interpreting component, chuchotage, and monologue interpreting and sight translation. Did I hear correctly? So if you are a provisional certified interpreter and provide 3 years experience, you will upgrade to certified. You can, okay, so there's a confusion there. If you have 3 years experience, you can apply to sit a certified interpreter test. You can't upgrade. When you move from one credential to the other one, so when you're moving up, you always have to sit the test with NAATI. Next question. If I want to be certified as a translator but have no degree in translation, can I show my years of experience as a translator instead? No, you can't. You need to, as part of this new certification system, it's one of the prerequisites that you actually do gain some sort of training in translation. So again, your option is to either do a NAATI endorsed qualification or the RMIT or TAFE South Australia course, online course. Next question. Would it be okay to count self-study translation in work logbook if I do not have enough work? I suggest you contact the recertification team and explain them exactly, and then they will be able to assist you with that. Next question. I did my transition already, and NAATI provided me with the recertification ID for only 12 months, which expires in January 2019. In that case, how many points I need to obtain for the recertification? So, same points. Again, you look at the past 3 years. Even when your certificate, even when you were actually accredited, when you had an accreditation and not a certification. RMIT do not offer online. I am unavailable to relocate. They don't offer the online course is not available as yet, but it will be available in the next couple of months. As I mentioned before, they're just taking, at the moment, they are taking expression of interest. I want to be an interpreter specialized in Vietnamese. Where should I start? So your best starting point is to have a look around and see um, training options, education options. So you could look at NAATI endorsed courses. You can look at the RMIT, as I mentioned before, depending on the level you decide to go to, RMIT or TAFE South Australia. Online courses. If you're not, if you're not a native English speaker and you're not completed your secondary school in English, I suggest you also take the an English proficiency test. And after that, your next step will be to apply for the test, and you will, depending on what course you do, you will be asked or not to do the intercultural and ethical competency test. And then eventually at the end, if you pass this, you will also need to sit the NAATI test to become an interpreter. How many times can provisionally certified interpreters recertify, and what happens next? As a certified interpreter, your credential expire every 3 years, so you need to recertify every 3 years. I hope that answered the question. The will NAATI provide the names of the online training modules for RMIT and other institutions? These are already available on our website. I always recommend to register to the NAATI newsletters. By doing so, you will receive the latest updates directly in your inbox, and so you will keep yourself up to date with the latest changes and the latest news in regards to the interpreting and translating industry. I was a NAATI examiner in the 1990s, left the practice due to a full-time executive job elsewhere. Now retire, return to interpreting. Do I still have to sit the certification test? I feel all I need are intercultural courses to be updated. So if your credential accreditation doesn't have an expiry date, you can transition to the certification system. And as I was showing before, the NAATI transition form, you can actually put a comment in the first page down at the bottom to explain why you are unable to provide uh, evidence of a work experience in the past 3 years, and then in that way you will be able. NAATI will look at the actual individual application, and we will take it from there. Still going through some of the questions, so just bear with me because there's a lot of them in there. Next question is: will as little as as 10 interpreting assignments be enough for accreditation in emerging language such as Kurdish and so on? I assume this it's in regards to the revalidation or maybe recertification. If your language is not in demand, obviously it is harder for you to complete to meet the requirements for the professional for the work practice criteria. I recommend, as I said before, always to contact the recertification team and explain them why you weren't able to meet the criteria, and they can take it from there. Um, as a recognized, what does a recognized interpreter has to do for transition process? As a recognized interpreter, all you have to do is fill in the transition form, attach an ID photo to the email, and if you are revalidating every 3 years, this is all you have to do. If you're not revalidating your credentials every 3 years, you need to provide evidence of work experience for the past 3 years. Can you transition at any time in the future for the fee of $121, or will you be gradually introduce further requirements to be able to transition from an accredited translator to a certified translator? So as I mentioned before, at the moment, the transition process, the transition application, it's free until June. We recommend you take advantage of that. After June, there will be a fee of $121, but we are not sure how long we will keep the transition application available. So if you're interested to transition, we recommend you do that as soon as possible. If you have any questions, always feel free to contact the NAATI office in your state. I'm an experienced interpreter, but my accreditation is expired already and my language test is not soon. Do I need to stop interpreting, or I continue to interpreting based on my experience until test is scheduled? You can probably apply for recognized recognition. I recommend to contact the NAATI office to find out more information as to how you can do that. Mm. Do you happen to know the date by which government agencies are required to accept certification over accreditation? No, we don't have any dates. As I mentioned before, that's entire up to the government agencies. So you may want to check with them directly. Hi, I cannot do on-site interpreting due to other work commitments. If I only do telephone interpreting, minimum 40 assignments a year. Is that still all right? Yeah, that's still fine. It's still an assignment. Mm. If this is the next question, if pre 2007 accreditation holders for translation will be allowed to practice and continue to use the NAATI stamp, who will be monitoring the quality of their job, I guess, when they will not be required to further their skill through revalidation? As I mentioned before, eventually, most of government agencies and language service provider will give priorities to certification. Um, so I'm not sure how many pre 2007 without certification will continue to work as interpreters on translators. Mm. Next question. I passed the ethical test, but did not pass a dialogue test. If I see the test again, can I have only the dialogue test? Unfortunately, not. Unfortunately, we'll be required to see the entire new test because it's a different system. You obviously set the test under the accreditation. We're now moved to the certification, so you will need to sit the test again. Um, Still going through some of the questions here, so just give me 1 second. Can recognition for new interpreters wanting to be recognized in new and emerging language continue or not? Yes, we're continuing to providing recognition for new and emerging languages. If you are unsure, just contact the NAATI office, and we can look into that for you. Will there be a fee to recertify in 3 years' time? Yes, there is going to be a fee to recertify, and the recertification fee just give me 1 second. Recertification fee will be $242. Am I allowed to work as a translator in Australia without being certified by NAATI? You can work as a translator, but I'm not sure if many agencies or governments, if any government agencies or service language provider will be accepting, be able to give you work. You will also find that 99% of the time here in Australia, if you are asked to translate a document, unless the translated version has a NAATI stamp, it will not be accepted. It's not considered valid. Telephone interpreting usually goes around the 30 minutes mark. Will that count as one assignment, or do we need to complete a full 1 hour session? It is considered as one assignment. This is probably not related, but what would be your advice for international professionals looking for the CCL points, wait and do the online translating modules, or June, or enroll in a 6-month advanced diploma? So if you're only after the credential community language points for your visa application, NAATI now does have different tests. At the moment, the application to sit the CCL test is closed. It will reopen again in May. If you want to find out more information, just call one of our offices. Once I submit the documents, how long will it be before I become certified? I assume this means once I submit the documents to transition. So once you submit your transition applications, it usually takes 4 to 5 weeks to be processed and assessed. After that, once it's assessed, you will receive, if it's successful, you will receive an email with your with a copy of your certificate, and if you're an interpreter, or you will receive your ID card, and if you're a translator, you will receive a stamp in the post, and that can take up to 6 weeks before it's actually delivered to your postal address. And I think I am at the bottom. I don't know if there are any other questions. Is the short course professional translating skills at TAFE are actually enough as a prerequisite, or do I need the advanced diploma of translating? It depends as to what. No, sorry, translation. Yes, that should be sufficient, but uh, is that the online? I just need more clarification as to what course it is. Is that the online course, or is it something else? Mm. Please. Is certified professional interpreter qualification a prerequisite for sitting these specialized professional interpreter exams? The specialized interpreter exams, as I mentioned before, will be available toward the end of the year, beginning of next year. The requirements are yet to be defined, so I suggest you get in touch with us again in the new year or toward the end of this year. What if my application for transition is not accepted based on the documents I sent? If it's not accepted based on the documents you sent, we will get in touch with you and let you know why it was not accepted. We're quite flexible when it comes to transition. So if you think that there's a problem, just contact the NAATI office. You can contact the national office if you want, or the office in your state. Mm, I looked for the online courses and got directed to these two courses, but they seem to be on campus. Um, the first one goes for 6 months and the other one for 1 year. I don't think these are the online courses I mentioned before. These are not yet available. As I said before, they're only taking the expression of interest at this stage. Do I have to become a provisional before becoming certified? No. You can, it's your decision if you wish to sit the NAATI test to become a provisional interpreter, certified provisional interpreter, or certified interpreter. How long do we need to wait to get the results after sitting for a NAATI test? It's the waiting time at this stage. It's still the same. We're looking probably between 8 to 10 weeks. Are the currently publicized RMIT and TAFE essay online courses for provisional interpreter exam only? Yes, that's correct. It's only for provisional, certified provisional interpreters. Will there be online training for translators or only for interpreters? Yes, there will be also online training for translators. As far as I understand, they're going to first release the interpreting and at a later stage, the translators, most likely before the end of the year, but I'm not 100% sure about that yet. Um, do I still have to fill in my work and PD logbook regardless of waiting for NAATI decision on transition? Um, I'm not sure I understand properly the question. So you have applied for to transition to the certification, but you're waiting to be contacted um, by NAATI if your application has been approved or not. Um, if you're revalidating every 3 years, yes, I recommend you just continue updating your PD logbook regardless um, of waiting for NAATI. But I expect you will transition. I wouldn't think there is a problem. And as I said, if you haven't provided or if you're missing some documents, we will get in touch with you and let you know. Are online courses scheduled for satisfying prerequisites of sitting certified interpreters exam this year? No, it's only for um, certified provisional interpreters. Is a is a conference interpreting the highest level and what it is and what is required if I want to transit to it. Yes, it is the highest level, and you can't depending on what your existing credential, if you currently are an accredited conference interpreter, then you can transition. Otherwise, you need to sit a test to become a conference interpreter. The new stamp only carries the logo of NAATI and does not have the name of the organization, not even the acronym. Um, I'm not sure what you mean about the name of the organization. If it does have the NAATI logo, it should say NAATI in there. Um, One final question. The newsletter NAATI website says that in order to sit for a CCL test, eligible applicants will be advised by email if a test place has been offered to them. Will NAATI provide the requirements to be eligible for the CCL test? Just want to make sure this is clear. The CCL test will not allow you to actually work as an interpreter or a translator. The CCL test, it's only available it's only to be used, it's only for for the immigration points, and that's it. You can't work as an interpreter or translator if you sit the CCL test. Um, Once you put in your expression of interest for the CCL test, you pay for the fee, and then you will be informed at a later stage when the test date it's when you can see the actual test. But I'm not sure if this is what you're actually asking. Does the NAATI test run and marked same in all states? Yes. That's one of the main objective that we want to achieve, and make sure that um, all the NAATI tests are marked in the same way. Um, would I be able to sit certified interpreter exam in Cantonese after finishing an endorsed course in Mandarin if no endorsed course in Cantonese at advanced diploma level or above is available? Um, you can only sit a certified interpreter test if you do an advanced diploma. Otherwise, you can sit the certified provisional interpreter test. If I were sick for a period of time, therefore not able to meet the criteria of 120 assignments over the 3 years, is there any special consideration of exemptions or extensions of time? Yes, we do provide that. Best thing to do is to contact the recertification team and let them know exactly why you weren't able to meet the criteria, and they can either uh, put a special consideration for your situation or extend the time. Next one, I have work experience as an interpreter for 11 years. If I do not want to transition myself to a certified provisional interpreter, can I do that? Um, as I said before, transition to certification system, it's optional. You can only transition if you have a valid current accreditation. If your accreditation expire after 3 years, then after those 3 years you won't be able to revalidate anymore, which means you will lose your credential. If your credential doesn't have an expiry date, then yes, you can continue to work if the agencies are happy to assign you to continue using your service, of course. Um, there are no, okay, the next question, I was asking about the actual requirements to be eligible for sitting the CCL test. There are no prerequisites to sit the CCL test. All you have to do is just fill in the online application, provide a passport photo, and copy of ID. Are we going to receive a certification or certificate for participating in this session? You will need to get in touch with Polaron in regards to this. Are there any other questions? Or are we ready to wrap up? Next question. If I'm busy with another job and only work part-time, interpreting and not enough assignments over the 3 years, same thing. If you can't meet the work criteria, just get in touch with the actual recertification team at the national office, and they will be able to assist you with that. Can I do 2 language tests at a time? You will need to sit 2 different tests. Once you meet the prerequisites, for example, you complete an advanced diploma in interpreting, and or you have the required education and complete the ethical competency test and the intercultural competency test. After that, and you can see the test in the relevant language, but it will be 2 different tests. Well, it depends how much is the fee for 2 languages. It depends on what level you would like to sit. For certified interpreter test, it's 880, and the certified provisional interpreter test, it's 550. The certified translator test, it's 550. can study degree or master's in interpreting and translation exempt me from certification and recertification? I'm not sure I understand this properly. As an interpreter, you still have to recertify your credentials every 3 years, regardless if you have a master or not. You still have to meet the same requirements as everybody else. When is the next NAATI test starting? It depends on what test you are inquiring about. If you're asking about the provisional, certified provisional interpreter test, we're probably looking at um, uh, before the end of June. For the certified interpreter test, we don't have a date as yet. But this year, we are not going to be testing all the languages. We're only going to be testing a few languages. Also depends on the expression of interest that we receive. Um, Anything else? Any other questions? Why some agencies are charging a high amount of money for professional development courses? Unfortunately, this is nothing to do with NAATI. It's the actual agencies running the courses, so you may want to discuss this directly with them. Where can I get material for test? I need to have a bit more information as to what test you're referring to. If you're referring to the CCL test, we do have a practice test material available for free to download on our website. Unfortunately, we don't have any test material available for certified provisional interpreter test or any of the certification tests due to the nature of the actual test. Um, I'm a professional translator with NAATI Accreditation since 1983. When I send the transition work practice, do I need to produce PD records too? No. When you transition, all you have to do is provide work evidence for the past 3 years. You don't have to provide the professional development records, not at this stage. That's only required when you actually are recertifying. I missed the beginning of this webinar. Can I log in to start over later on? I think this is for Polaron. I understand they have recorded the session, but I'm not sure when and how it is going to be available. Are there any other questions? How can I be prepared for test? So, by doing the NAATI endorsed course qualifications or the online training module, you will be able to do some training and prepare yourself for the test. As I said, you can't sit a test without having completed some sort of education related to the interpreting and translating industry. So they will be able to provide you with plenty of material to prepare yourself. I was going to do the advanced diploma just to get the CCL points. You don't need to do they're not as I mentioned before, there are no prerequisites for the actual CCL points. That's entirely up to you to decide. If you feel you need to complete a course or do some training with an external organization. Can NAATI itself run professional development sessions such as this one? This is a good question. This is something that I can probably bring forward to the attention of the national office. We did organize last year an information session on the new certification system, and it was recorded and it's available, I believe, on YouTube as well. Where can I get the sample of the previous test? These are no longer available because we're looking at a completely different way of testing people. They wouldn't be useful for you to prepare to the actual test. Can you provide that link, please? Assume you're referring to the link to the YouTube link with the video. If you just call the Melbourne office Monday, because we're closed tomorrow and Friday, we will be able to email that to you. Do they have real people for role playing the test, or they use tape recording? The tape recording is no longer used in the new testing system. We actually have real people sitting in the room and acting, for example, as a doctor or as a patient. What is the name of that YouTube video? I don't remember it at the top of my head. But as I mentioned, we can pass it on to you, email it to you if you get in touch with our office on Monday. So yes, last time I did the test, it was tape recording. Now it will be face-to-face tests, all questions and answers. Yes, that's correct. The new certification system, it will not involve any tape recording. It's all done face-to-face with actual role players. So when you register to sit the test, we will make sure that on the day we will have role players in the language you wish to be tested. We're gonna start interviewing for role players in the next few months, and one of our priority is to make sure that the accent is clear. But of course, if there are any issues or any problem throughout the test, it's always important that you raise this during the actual test and not afterwards. Any other questions? In test, during the test, how they will know the other language interpreting answer. So when you sit the test, you're not actually assessed by an examiner. You just sit in the test. You're there with two role players and an invigilator. The test is video recorded and it will be then passed on to an external examiner for reviewing and assessment. It will be video recorded. Yes, the new certification test will be video recorded. Interpreting, I'm talking about interpreting test. Yes, it's face to face. The test it is face to face, but it's not with the actual examiners. You won't be sitting, you won't be tested immediately with the examiners. You will be with two role players and invigilators that will supervise the test to make sure everything runs smoothly. And at the end of the test, then the recording will be sent to an external examiner for assessment. Does NAATI certification provide an equivalence for IELTS? No, we don't. I heard that some external examiners are prejudged towards someone who's not from the same ethnicity as they are. Is that the case? No, that's not the case. Are there any other questions? So I guess the session is going until 5:30. We still have 10 minutes. If you want to ask any other question, just feel free to do so. I'm currently accredited at the professional level in interpreting. How do I achieve conference interpreter certification? You need to sit a test in order to become conference interpreter, but you also need to provide um, a proof that that with your professional development you've actually done it. Your professional developments um, are at a conference level, and but I guess it's probably best if you just give us a call because a conference interpreter is not as straightforward. So, and it's not very common either. It's probably best if you contact the office on Monday, and we can explain it to you over the phone. And can I upgrade my certified provisional interpreter certification credential to certified interpreter now, as I can provide proof of 3 year experience? You can't upgrade, but you can apply to sit the test without having to complete um, the educational advanced diploma course. Would these new reforms are going to work better than previous model than NAATI? Yes. We're hoping that is the case. That's why we're working on this. That is why it was we're moving from accreditation to certification. Any other questions? Um, okay. If one already has one certification and decides to add another one, perhaps another language direction, does one need to sit another test in ethics or cultural awareness areas? Yes, you do, because it's seen as completely different test, especially if your first credential was not gained through the certification but through the accreditation. But again, it's probably best if you give us a call on Monday because I just want to be 100% sure of this. At some point, I think there was a certified advanced senior translator level being discussed, but it doesn't seem to have been included in the current certification model. Do you know what happened with that? As far as I understand, that's not been included, and I don't think it will be included. I'm not sure, to be honest, what has been decided with that. Which other qualifications help interpreters in their career? I mean, additional qualifications or skills? Well, that's entirely up to the individual. I'm not sure what experience you have so far, what kind of studies you have done so far. I guess that's there are plenty of courses and opportunities out there. It really depends as to your experience, how long you've been doing this for, and so on. The NAATI directory does not allow for direction or for skill interpreting, translating. This is a big issue for clients to find the right professional. When will this be fixed? It actually does. So once you enter the language, you're taken to a different screen. On the left-hand side of the screen, you can actually narrow down your search to different levels and different skills. When we will be able to sit for tests, I've submitted the application but been advised the test process is still being worked on. That's correct. As I said before, we're going to soon run the first certified provisional interpreter test on some languages only. And then we'll continue to do so for the remaining of the year, and we'll then look at it again in the new year. Okay, so we're just wrapping it up now. I'm just gonna change. I'm just gonna pass it on to Polaron at this stage. I don't know if there's anything else that would like to add. Otherwise, I would just like to thank you all for attending. It was a big number. I hope you find this useful. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to contact the NAATI office. Feel free to contact us at any time. Thank you all for attending.